Welcome to Kojo Recaps. Today I'm going to be showing you a 2001 American independent science fiction parody film called The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. Spoilers ahead. In 1961, scientist Dr. Paul Armstrong and his wife Betty Armstrong drive into the mountains. Dr. Armstrong is searching for a meteorite that has fallen in the nearby woods, suspected to contain the rare element atmosphereum. He asks his wife Betty to pull up to the side of the road so he can check the map and make sure he wasn't going in the wrong direction. Betty mentions to her husband that she really wishes it was a vacation and a break from all the scientific work. Paul reminds Betty that the meteorite could mean a lot to Earth and why it's important for him to find it. At the same time, Dr. Roger Fleming sees a man named Ranger Brad standing by the road and questions him about Cadavra Cave, a site rumored to contain a lost skeleton. Ranger Brad asks him why he wants to go there, and Roger Fleming asks him if he intrudes on his ranger business, to which they both laugh. Ranger Brad directs Roger Fleming on the right path to follow. That evening, both the Armstrongs and Dr. Fleming observe another falling meteor. Fleming is seen talking to the skeleton, asking if he was against him and his ways. He tells the skeleton about his sad childhood, and how all skeletons hated him as a child. The skeleton commands Fleming to stop his blubbering and calls him a fool. Fleming is shocked at the strange voice and asks the person to reveal himself. The voice introduces itself as the Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, and says that the rest of him is just lifeless bones. The skeleton commands Fleming to bring atmosphereum to return him to life. Meanwhile, Dr. Armstrong and Betty venture into the woods, discovering the meteorite just outside Cadavra Cave. Dr. Fleming overhears them and runs back into the cave, where he plots to steal the meteorite from the pair. It's seen that an alien couple, Kro-Bar and Lattis, crash land a cheap-looking rocket ship in a splotch of forest near the cabin. They also need atmosphereum to fix their wayward craft. Worse, they have lost their pet, a multi-eyed hulk of a mutant, now hunting and killing unlucky forest rangers. A short time later, a farmer, encountered by the Armstrongs on their way to the cabin, is mutilated by the mysterious beast. Lattis enters the forest in search of the mutant pet in order to change it into a creature that is more harmless. Kro-Bar and his wife also journey into the woods in search of a power source that would help to propel their ship. They locate the cabin with the meteorite. Using a device called a transmutatron, they disguise themselves as Earth people and clumsily manage to talk their way into the cabin, having been mistaken for the property owners. The aliens are served scotch, and they all try to engage in conversation and introduce themselves as Turgasso and Baman. Not long after they arrive, Dr. Fleming discovers the aliens' transmutatron, left outside the cabin since it would ruin their disguise. He uses it to create an ally for himself, the alluring Animala, created from 4 different animals. After briefly teaching Animala the basics of human interaction and the rudiments of English so he can pass her off as his wife, he leads her to the cabin and convinces the Armstrongs to invite them inside. All of them meet up inside the Armstrongs' cabin, where Paul has the atmosphereum meteor safely hidden in the living room. The 3 couples share a bizarre dinner during which they begin switching loyalties and so forth, especially once the booming voice of the skeleton comes back from the cave and begins issuing commands. A ranger named Brad comes to the cabin also. He recognizes Dr. Fleming, who refutes the claim, and introduces Animala as his wife. The ranger informs the group that a farmer was severely mutilated in the woods, and he's come to warn them. He leaves and also gets ambushed by the mutant. Soon it becomes clear to Lattis and Kro-Bar that Dr. Fleming knows their secret. Betty is being controlled by the skeleton to bring the meteorite to him. She goes into the room with the group following her behind and picks it up, but her husband collects it from her and she falls to the bed faint. After she wakes up, she tells her husband that she doesn't know why she took it, but she just had an overwhelming desire to do so. Kro-Bar and Lattis cooperate in stealing the meteorite after Betty is psychically attacked by the skeleton and Dr. Armstrong is entranced by Animala's dancing. The evil scientist Dr. Roger Fleming tricks the pair, however, and the skeleton uses his mind powers to freeze the aliens in their tracks, once Dr. Fleming has the meteorite. Dr. Fleming and Animala soon use the atmosphereum to resurrect the skeleton. Meanwhile, Betty, waiting for Dr. Armstrong to come back, encounters the mutant, who appears to have fallen in love with her, but she is terrified and faints. While Fleming and Animala are resurrecting the skeleton, Armstrong arrives and encounters the frozen aliens. They also find Betty, who has realized that the mutant has some sort of feelings for her. After bonding over a meal in the spaceship, the four head off to try and obtain the meteorite before it can be used to resurrect the skeleton fully, but they are attacked by the mutant. Dr. Armstrong is injured in the fight, but realizes that the monster does not want to harm Betty. Armstrong and his wife return to the cabin to recover, while the aliens try to stop Fleming on their own. However, they are quickly captured by the skeleton's mind powers and forced to dance by his psychic powers. The skeleton uses his mental powers to force Lattis into becoming his skeleton bride, much to Kro-Bar's chagrin. The skeleton mocks everyone, including Dr. Fleming, but keeps them in line with his telepathy. When Armstrong sees what is going on, he comes up with a plan to get Betty to lure the mutant to the wedding and disrupt it. After getting the mutant to follow them, Armstrong and Betty attack Fleming and Animala. During the fight, the skeleton kills Fleming, after the latter is beaten by Armstrong. The mutant then arrives at the wedding and attacks the skeleton, whose powers do not affect beings with as simple of minds as the mutant. They instead fight until the skeleton is thrown over a cliff, smashing apart on impact. The mutant then succumbs to its injuries and dies. Animala is turned back into the animal she originally was via Kro-Bar's transmutatron. The alien and human couples, who are now friends, spout traditional homilies about different species working together in harmony. Then they go to retrieve the atmosphereum together. Will the lost skeleton return? What do you think about the movie? Let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. Until next time, dear viewer.